Good morning, people. How are you doing? I keep looking to the ring for the fucking camera. It is the 23rd day of June, 2023. It is bright and early, 7:30. I'm already in the process of watering my next door neighbor's lawn. Gone for, I guess, a vacation kind of thing. And had just gotten some grass installed, and got to water it nonstop, basically. So, it's her water bill. She wants to pay it for grass. Go right ahead. I'm more than happy to help you out. So, got a brief window of opportunity between watering phases, cycles. James Cameron, Captain Hindsight. He's Captain Hindsight. He'll tell you what you already know. Captain Hindsight, James Cameron, has spoken out now about this, what happened to the Titan. And of course, Captain Hindsight knows exactly what's wrong. And Captain Hindsight will tell everybody what's wrong. And he does so now every single time anybody says, hey, you want to? I'm on. What time? He's ready to go. Why is that, you ask? Why didn't Captain Hindsight, James Cameron, why didn't Captain Hindsight, James Cameron speak out before? You might ask yourself. Are these two things connected? The fact that now he's going to jump in and talk about it when before he was reluctant. Yes, they are. And I'm not going to, do a fucking, I'm not going to drag it out to the end of the video. He sunk a whole bunch of cash into making submarines for the uber rich. He has money invested in this niche industry. And he has a lot of money invested in this niche industry. Letting the uber rich zip around on the ocean floor as if they're Captain Hindsight, James Cameron themselves. Mr. Expert. Why is he an expert? He made the abyss. Do yourselves a fucking favor. Look up anything on filming The Abyss, and you will find that it was a goddamn nightmare for the technicians and for the actors and for the fucking for the director of photography. It was a fucking nightmare for everyone but Captain Hindsight, James Cameron. It was an absolute nightmare for everybody. It was exceedingly dangerous. Why, Scott? Because it was at 7,000 feet. Anything's dangerous at 7,000 feet. It was exceedingly dangerous with Captain Hindsight James Cameron at the helm in a goddamn tank at less than 10 feet. And he almost killed people. And that, boys and girls, in this day and age, makes you a fucking expert. As long as you have money. Yes, indeed. Captain Hindsight, James Cameron, has come out now that the thing is resolved and said, I knew it all along. Literally, that's exactly what the fuck he said. You go and look, just look up James Cameron. James Cameron wishes he had been more vocal. I could have told him. I knew it all along. Captain Hindsight. He says, the technology sounded like a bad idea. Says Captain Hindsight. James Cameron. Captain Hindsight, James Cameron, was literally strapped into a fucking bathyscaphe like a sack of potatoes because he's rich and because he's got an ego, and he was taken down to some of the lowest depths, steepest, darkest depths in the fucking Mariana Trench. Is that the one? One of those fucking things. Congratulations. You did what a sack of potatoes could do. Capt and Hindsight, James Cameron. Congratulations. You're awesome. Next year, Captain Hindsight, James Cameron, will have some Sherpas carry him up to the fucking top of Mount Everest. So in case there's another fucking tragedy that takes place on Mount Everest, Capt and Hindsight, James Cameron, can come out and fucking run his goddamn mouth about that. Why didn't he speak out sooner? He wanted it to have as little attention as possible. He didn't want to add to the media blitz. And of course, Captain Hindsight, James Cameron, figures that anything he opens his mouth about is going to immediately get all the attention in the world. So he went mums until it comes out that the thing imploded. But now what's he doing? Why did he do that? Because he has money in it. He has money invested in the, as he admits himself, very small, very niche, budding new business. Providing these fucking toys for the uber rich. And he's heavily invested in it. And he'll tell you himself. He's heavily invested in it. Because he made the deep. Yes. He's made 12 dives that he talks about to a lot now to the Titanic. Look, there's plenty to discover in the vast oceans. And people who study it, and people who study fucking engineering for fucking submarines and submersibles and bathyscafs and bathyspheres. I'm all in on them being given the respect that they deserve. However, Captain Hindsight, James Cameron, is not one of those. In any sense, he's just a fucking arrogant, rich dude who makes good films. Almost killing his fucking cast and crew in the process with The Abyss. But he makes good films, and he makes a lot of money for the film with the films. So they pay him a lot of fucking money. He's a good director. Does that mean he is an expert on something that he made films about? No. Abso-fucking-lutely not. Does he know more about the Titanic and submersibles than I do? Sure. But I'll make you a fucking submersible if you're ultra rich, if you like. Give me $1 billion and I'll make you one. You're not going to survive it, but I'll make you one. I'm not pretending to be an expert on these things. Now, he did say something in his first coming out of the closet, so to speak, fucking interview after the implosion. And he said something that I said on Sunday. What the fuck is it doing being made out of fucking carbon fiber? What the fuck is that? He said, and I'm not going to quote, I can't quote, but I will give you the rough gist of it. Being in the business, he has seen other competitors and seen the designs. And he was very concerned, according to him, as Captain Hindsight, that the carbon fiber isn't contiguous. Is that what he said? Contiguous. And that repeated fucking exposure to these kinds of pressures could cause it to start delaminating. Now, he said that which is why, according to him, steel is better, metals are better. even acrylic now, because it's contiguous. Is that the right use of that word? It's a material that's not pressed. It doesn't have the chance to fucking delaminate. So, according to him, built into the fucking hull, there were sensors in the carbon fiber. And if there was any kind of fracturing, even micro fracturing, then the sensors and the alarms would go off, and you would drop your fucking ballast weights and hope to get back up before the pressure crushed the hull, which he believes and others believe happened. Now, they say the evidence of that is that the weights were dropped off. How the fuck would you know the weights were dropped prior to the implosion? Because the implosion is a violent fucking act. It blew the cone off the top, off the front, the cone off the back, the fairing off the back, and the fucking frame off the bottom. So would it blow the fucking weights off as well? Sure it would. So do we have any proof at all that the alarm went off and they dropped the weights to come back up? No. In fact, what we have is the opposite. Because they were, according to now the Navy says, yes, we heard an explosion. And we put it right at about 3:30 local time PM when they were on the descent on the way down on Sunday. Why we are just hearing this now, I have no idea. But that's the story now. They were in communication. Had there been an alarm that was sounded and they dropped weights, they would, don't you think it would have made sense if their communication was still intact, that they would have said, alarm sounded, dropping weights, returning surface. How long did that take? 3 seconds? But that report never came. So in all honesty, in all likelihood, as they were making the descent, and I told you they were found 1,600 feet away from the bow, so I believe they were on their way to make the descent. As they were descending, there was something that happened so quickly that they had no idea, because that was just the end of the communication. He will also tell you something that nobody else has talked about for some reason, except for me, and that was my assumption that there had to be some kind of transponder, some kind of locator beacon on there. James Cameron will tell you, indeed there was. Indeed there was. And that, the problem was, when the transponder beacon stopped transmitting, was the exact same time they lost communication with the submersible. Which, unless somebody unplugged them, the communications and the fucking beacon, so they could, I don't know, take off. Unless somebody unplugged them. I don't even know if that's possible with the transponder beacon, because it's self-contained. But unless that happened, the only explanation is somewhere around 4,000, 5,000 feet. He'll say 3,500. I'm not sure what I don't know. It's carbon fiber. So who the fuck knows? If it suddenly started fucking fracturing and delaminating, where would that have, what kind of pressure would be needed to catastrophically cause the catastrophic implosion of the Titan? I have no idea. James Cameron, Capt in Hindsight, believes it's about 3,500, 4,000 feet. Which again, that's descending on the way down, imploding higher up from the seafloor at 12,500 feet. Makes sense for larger, more spread out fucking debris field. Let's watch James Cameron, Capt in Hindsight. This guy is he's offensive. And I just want you to remember that he has his own he has a financial stake in trying to fix the narrative here. It's like he's saying, don't not buy my fucking shit, super rich people. Listen, because he's heavily invested. This is catastrophic to that business. This is absolutely catastrophic to that business. It doesn't matter. Listen, it doesn't matter if your hull is made of fucking carbon fiber or cotton candy or fucking steel. When the uber rich find some new fucking cool trend to do, hey, you did what? You went to fucking Everest? How much does that cost? I can afford that. How many Sherpas had to carry your fat ass up? I only had 4 carry me up. How about 6? When the uber rich have a new fucking thing that everyone's got to do. And apparently, right now, it's go down to the Titanic with Capt and Hindsight, James Cameron. Apparently, that's the thing. So, that's all well and good until the uber rich see other uber rich die. God damn, the uber rich hate that. Man, they hate that. They don't like seeing other uber rich people die. They're not supposed to die, but I'm rich. Don't you know who I am? As the angel of death stands there. The grim reaper. I don't understand. What took me out? It was the carbon fiber. So when you have something like that happen with this new trending hotness, it tends to kill off the new trending hotness with the quickness. And once the uber rich get it in their fucking heads, oh, yeah, we shouldn't be doing that stupid shit because we can die a horrible, nasty, vicious, violent death. Yeah, they don't go. They're not going to buy into more of, I don't know, things like, James Cameron, Captain Hindsight's fucking submarines for uber rich company. They'll just say, oh, you know what? They'll give them a call and say, oh, you know what? We're done with that. I'm not doing that. And if you think your lawyers are better than mine, God bless you, James Cameron. And James Cameron quietly goes out of business. So he's doing his best to defend his own self-interest, while, by the way, self-promoting. Here I give to you the latest offering from uber-rich submarine investor, Captain Hindsight, James Cameron.
What I was doing. I think that's pretty clear. I wish I had been more vocal about that, but
oh yeah,
I think I was unaware that they weren't certified.
You think?
Because I wasn't really studying it. I wasn't really interested. Stockton Rush asked me if I wanted to go out there.
In a previous video, he said he was studying it. He was interested in it. He did notice it was carbon fiber. And he said it wasn't a good idea. He's lying. James Cameron, Captain Hindsight. Why is he lying? He's invested. James Cameron.
And died this season. I wasn't interested. There was a lot of concern.
He wasn't interested because he was studying the fucking thing and he was worried that the goddamn thing was unsafe.
About this outfit and this sub. A lot of concern.
So if you weren't studying it, how did you know there was a lot of concern about the outfit and the sub? He told us in the previous interview that it would do his business harm. And so he was concerned that somebody was going to be hurt. But I wasn't studying it or anything. Why did he keep his mouth shut? He quietly, from behind the scenes, wanted it to fucking go away. But the last thing he wanted was to make the uber rich start reading reports in the fucking New York Times and the Washington Post and the trade journals that maybe, just maybe, the uber rich should stay at sea level. Because none of this one, or I don't know, this one, none of it is safe.
Even to the extent that I wasn't involved in it because I was making Avatar 2 at the time, but a lot of them got together and wrote a letter to Ocean Gate and said, you have to certify. You cannot take people down. It's irresponsible, and it could lead to catastrophe. Monday morning, when I first found out about the incident, got on a whole bunch of calls and emails. It's a small community. Within an hour and a half, I had the following information. They were on descent. They were at 3,500 feet. They lost comms and tracking.
And
Last
what?
one being the critical one.
And what?
Because the transponder that's used to track
a transponder. Oh my goodness, who was saying there had to be a transponder on that thing? Oh, that, yeah, okay, that's right. Capt and Hindsight, Scott Creighton.
So, during descent and on the bottom, is a fully autonomous system.
Yeah, I know.
It's in its own pressure housing.
Yeah, I know.
And it has its own battery power. So for them to lose comms and tracking at the same time, sub was gone. There was no question in my mind. For days, I tried to run other scenarios that could account for it. I could come up with nothing. So the next thing I did...
See, he knew first thing Monday morning. It took him an hour to figure it out. As soon as he heard about first thing Monday morning, he took him an hour. What was he doing Sunday night? What was James Cameron, Captain Hindsight, doing Sunday night that he didn't even notice? The thing that he and his fucking business partners all were worried about, the Titan going crinkle, had happened. What was he doing that was so important on Sunday night? Was he at his winery? Was he at his fucking, what do they call it? What do they call it? Was he at the chateau? Was he doing a bunch of blow with 20-year-old chicks? Who the fuck knows?
Was contacted a few more people and managed to track down, there are acoustic networks around.
The
some
Navy.
Are research, some are intelligence. We got confirmation within an hour that there had been a loud bang at the same time that the sub was, that comms were lost.
Capt and Hindsight.
Bang on the hydrophones. Loss of transducer or transponder. Loss of comms. I knew what happened. Sub imploded. I sent
Capt and Hindsight.
emails to everybody I know. I said, we've lost some friends. The sub has imploded. It's on the bottom in pieces right now. I sent that out Monday morning.
He's Captain. He's fucking 2 minutes into this thing, trying to get his insight on what happened, and all he's doing is talking about how soon he knew this is what happened.
I never believed in that technology of wound carbon fiber, wound filament.
There you go.
Cylindrical hull. I thought it was a horrible idea. I wish I'd spoken up, but I assumed somebody was smarter than me, because I'd never experimented with that technology, but it just sounded...
And he's not an engineer.
...bad on its face, because we make pressure hulls out of contiguous material: steel, titanium, ceramic, acrylic. And so you can model it, you can do finite element analysis of it, and you understand the yield properties, you understand the number of cycles that it can take. But you can't do that with a composite material because it's two dissimilar materials, sort of bonded together. And so we all knew that the danger was delamination and progressive failure over time with microscopic water ingress and fatigue, what they call cycling fatigue. And we knew that if the sub passed its pressure test, it wasn't going to fail on the first dive. It might fail on dive 7, or I don't know what they're at, but it's going to fail over time.
So finally, he does get into what they called and asked him about in the first place. But he spends the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes, telling everybody how much he knew and how quick he knew it because he's Capt in Hindsight and because he has his own fucking business peddling this shit and this adventurism to the uber rich. And that's why he kept his mouth shut. That's why he's out there now trying to point out the fact. I keep looking there to the camera. That's why he's out there now pointing out the fact that ours isn't built that way. But too bad, James Cameron, Captain Hindsight. Because as we all know, once the uber wealthy, once reality, here's the takeaway from this video. Once reality comes on knocking on the door of the uber fucking rich, they don't turn it away. And they don't forget. This is a stupid idea. It's a stupid fucking industry. Tell you what. Remarket. Remake a couple of your subs. And sell them to the fucking drug importers. So they can scoot. What he was talking about listening devices, he's talking about that. They don't want people bringing fucking narcotics in. So they spend shit tons of money putting these sensors out there like the Navy and the Coast Guard. And that's probably what hurt them. Because they know there's no goddamn terrorist happening. So they put listening devices out there for that. So, James Cameron, make yourself some super ultra quiet running fucking little submersible thing and sell it to the fucking Sinaloa cartel. Okay? That's your new fucking market. Because the uber rich... Hello? This is a bad idea. Is that Mr. Death? Yes. Yes, it is. I thought it was Captain Hindsight. James Cameron. You knew I'd do that again. I got to go water some shit. Bye-bye.